You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely.
Good morning and welcome to Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News. It's August the 21st and we are live here from the Legacy420.com news desk at paceradio.net and cbgtv.com. Good morning, Rev Callie.
Morning.
How you doing?
Sun's out. Happy Monday, Al. How you doing today?
Yeah, actually the sun has broken through the overcast skies I got going on.
It was a little bit
here.
gray earlier. Yeah.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I'm not seeing much blue around it though. I can just see the reflection off this greenhouse.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's, gearing up towards the end of the summer, I guess. How's your harvest doing? Your crops doing? Getting ready for harvest in a couple of months.
Well, I'm gonna say collectively, I've probably lost a plant over the last week due to wind damage.
Yeah. Yeah. Wind and not so nice weather. Yeah. Really high winds. So
Yeah.
I hope everybody's plants are okay. I'm sorry to hear that. That's a lot of good medicine going on in the wind there.
The good news, everybody's going into bloom.
Well, that's good too.
That's the good stuff. And yourself?
We've got one. We've got what porch plant, and she's ready to go too. She's starting to show some blooming too. So it's nice to watch them grow over the season.
Oh yeah. Yeah, exactly. They're right there. You can control them as far as, giving them the food and all that. And if it doesn't rain, but that's doesn't seem a problem this year. At least you could water it, right?
Right.
The days of spending 3 hours traveling in the location just so you can water. It's sort of gone.
You don't have to do that anymore. Nice, they're in your own backyard.
That's right. Exactly. All right. Well, what do you say we get started on some news? And we're going to do what we did last week. And we're going to get started with some Canadian cannabis news you may not find on Facebook due to the Facebook ban. How's that? There we go. First up from StratCan, AGLC delisting some Canadian cannabis products that contain CBD or CBN.
Yes, a cannabis producer says they were recently told their product would no longer be sold in Alberta due to them containing too much CBN.
Yeah, the notice sent in an email by their category manager at the AGLC, which they overlooked the cannabis there, came without approved notice, says Jen Myers, the CEO of Zelka Limited, a microprocessor located in Alberta, Canada. Just so you know, Jen is scheduled to be a guest this Wednesday on the Pace Radio Show.
Wonderful. So Zelka sells cannabis-infused sugar under the brand Manna. The product being delisted, maple sugar comes in 4 2-gram sachets, each containing 2.5 milligrams of THC, 5 milligrams of CBD, and they had 10 milligrams of CBN.
Despite Zelka being caught off guard, the AGLC tells StratCan via email that these changes are not new and were part of a notice the provincial regulator sent out in February of this year that referenced minor intoxicating cannabinoids. CBN is intoxicating?
That's interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah.
The change came into effect from February 2023, and AGLC depleted the on-hand inventory of impacted products, noted an AGLC media representative in an email to StratCan. AGLC worked with licensed producers and retailers to ensure that they had ample time to understand and adjust to the change. Earlier this year, the Ontario Cannabis Store also implemented the same requirements based on Health Canada's recommendations. We were informed by Health Canada that they did send out a notice to all LPs on the same topic.
There's a quote here from Jen saying that being able to provide our customers with unique formulations and highlighting different aspects of the plant in our product is one of the few competitive advantages we have over the black market.
Now, the February document in question contained no specific reference to CBN, a cannabinoid not universally considered intoxicating.
Yeah.
Several similar products that contain more than 10 milligrams of THC per package, when including CBN within that total, are still listed by the OCS. Now, the OCS has not yet responded to media requests for comment.
Health Canada tells StratCan they are currently developing a response to this issue. And from an email to StratCan, representative of the AGLC says, to minimize the risk of overconsumption and adverse effects of cannabis products containing intoxicating cannabinoids, Health Canada recommended all provinces and territories consider implementing policy that limits the chance that any combination of intoxicating cannabinoids found within a product should not exceed the THC limit set out for edibles and extract products in the cannabis regulations.
Wow.
Kelly, CBN's not intoxicating.
No, it's not. I guess, I mean, sometimes cannabinoids affect people differently, so maybe that's what they're considering here. But overall, no, it's certainly not considered intoxicating. So, but they're saying it's over the limits. Now, this is just in Calgary.
Just
Sorry, this is just
Alberta.
in Alberta, right? So I'm
Correct.
wondering,
Yeah.
do we have anything here that's comparable? I'm trying to think. I know that there are a lot
Well,
of products that are coming out with CBN now, but I haven't heard of this in Ontario happening.
I just heard of this from reading this story. I was talking to Jen at Lyft in Toronto.
Hmm. She was telling you about it.
Well, I got some samples.
Right.
So
Wow.
I
Wow.
might have
Yeah.
some illegal
Oh,
in
yeah.
Alberta, you know. Yeah.
That's
Wow.
right. They're fine here. You can have them
Yeah.
here, Al. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
They say, with this in mind, AGLC informed licensed producers of additional controls that will be applied to all intoxicating cannabinoids, specifically THC limit, the total amount of intoxicating cannabinoids, including Delta 9 THC and other intoxicating cannabinoids. They say that it does not exceed the regulatory limit set for the total Delta 9 THC. Wow. And then the 2 is the labeling, the accurate information regarding the name and quantity or concentration of all intoxicating cannabinoids to be put on the product label. Wow. So what are they differentiating between
Well,
intoxicating and non-intoxicating?
yeah, well, why don't they tell us or tell them which cannabinoids that they consider intoxicating
Right.
instead of just
They give
saying
us some education.
intoxicating?
Yeah.
Like, are you going to say
How are they doing
CBD
that?
is intoxicating?
It doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't make any
It,
sense.
and
Yeah.
how does that help the customer? Shouldn't the customer know about these kinds of things if they're going to feel that intoxicating effect?
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
there's a lot of
AG,
loopholes here.
yeah, AGLC has temporarily stopped accepting product submissions for products that contain any combination of intoxicating cannabinoids that exceed these THC limits. Please note, CBG is considered a non-intoxicating cannabinoid, and sales of CBG products will not be impacted.
It's just CBN.
Just
The
CBN.
CBN is more of an intoxication. I mean, I've consumed them both. I would say that I would definitely feel more intoxicated with CBN over CBG, but it's so interesting that they have to just break this down like this. And why can't they just give us more information? And why
Give us
can't we
more.
have more intoxication of the CBN effect with the THC? Why do they have to regulate it at all?
Yeah, why exactly? Yeah. It says here that the outreach from the AGLC has so far doesn't appear consistent. At least one other producer that also sells edible products into the Alberta market with CBN, in Divas Pearls, tells StratCan that they have not received any specific notice about their products being delisted, similar to Zelka's.
I was thinking of the Indiva pearls when this was coming. I was thinking, I wonder if they've affected the Indiva pearls because they're really well known for their CBN. Very interesting.
Yeah.
In March this year, Health Canada reached out to the cannabis industry seeking feedback on potential amendments to the cannabis regulations, whether limits to the maximum quantity of Delta 9 THC contained in a cannabis product by container and ingestible unit apply to the sum total of all intoxicant cannabinoids found in the product. It did not reference CBN specifically. Delta 9 THC is the synthetic cannabinoid, Al.
Delta 9, THC is the one that gets you stoned. The Delta 9, it's the one
Right.
that's after it's an acid once you
Right.
heat it up, right? So like the CB, as I say, that it did not reference CBN specifically, and that's
It
I
did
think
not
this is
reference
where
it.
this Health Canada should have spelled all that right out. What
Right.
is intoxicating and what's not intoxicating?
Right from the beginning, they should have.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Sources close to the issue say that the Federal Health Agency has also floated a draft documenting to stakeholders and guidelines for licensed producers on the subject of these minor intoxicating cannabinoids, such as Delta 8 THC, THCV, as well as CBN.
What?
Yeah.
And they're not giving any information. So is it the Delta 8 that it's the synthetic
That's
one?
the
That is.
synthetic one, correct?
So
Yeah.
now they're putting that on the table. Like now we're not going to
Yeah.
minor cannabinoids. Delta 8 isn't. It's synthetic, and so they really need to break this down.
Yeah. This is
Wow.
quite the story. It keeps going on there for quite a bit.
Yeah.
But it's posted at the Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News Facebook page. You want to take a look at it, and well, it was there last I saw.
Wow. Maybe not. Maybe it's taken down by now. It's ridiculous.
That's why I said that you may or may not find these first
No.
few stories on Facebook, and this next
Living
one
in the
here.
Handmaid's Tale times. Handmaid's Tale
This
times.
one here comes from CBC. It says dropping prices and heavy tax burden will mean cannabis industry bankruptcies, warns producer.
It's coming. With high taxes, a saturated market, and few options, some of Canada's legal cannabis producers are struggling. All of Canada's producers are struggling.
When the federal government legalized the sale of recreational cannabis in October of 2018, retail locations popped up one after another as investors and entrepreneurs dove into the new industry that was highlighted as the next big thing for the economy.
The market initially flourished with products in high demand and in short supply. However, prices are falling and the industry is taking a hit. Licensed producers and retailers are now looking for new ways to improve their bottom line.
Taylor Giovanni, co-owner of Oceanic Relief, cannabis producer based in Burin, with 9 retail locations across Newfoundland and Labrador, says a lot of the problem is due to how the deal was initially laid out. He says we are facing declining prices on product. It's a race to the bottom at the moment, and really it can't sustain itself.
Saying we're also overtaxed, overregulated, yet the black market is thriving. There's a lot of roadblocks happening. Now, there's a federal excise tax on cannabis that's $1 per gram, and Giovanni said product prices can't keep up.
We're still being charged $1 a gram, even though the average price per gram was around $10, and now we're sub $5. So over 50% of a $5 gram is going towards the government, whether it's excise, federally, or provincial taxes. Wow.
Giovanni wants to see a sliding percentage scale rather than the fixed amount that's in place that would help companies roll with the ebbs and flows of a volatile market, she says. In general, the market is at extreme risk.
Chris Crosby, Chief Operating Officer of Atlantic Cultivation in St. John, said Giovanni's concerns are widespread in the industry. His company pays anywhere between $800,000 to $1 million to the federal government per month.
What?
He says about a third of the wholesale revenue. $1 million
Oh my
a month.
God. That's just one company.
That's just one company. Yeah. Wow.
When you look at the other comparative industries with alcohol and tobacco, it's far less than that, and it's a massive stress on many organizations. Oh my God.
Yeah, the problem is largely due with the excise calculation. Pre-legalization was done on an idealized gram of cannabis being at about $10 wholesale going into these provinces.
They just want to take the money. Under the model, licensed producers would only have to pay tax of 10%, but that's not the case anymore, said Crosby. He says that's difficult. I'm hoping that with the right lobbying and efforts and given time, things will change, but I don't think there's any change coming in the immediate future.
And without any change to help industry from the federal level, Crosby protects a dire future for many licensed companies across the country. He says it's not sustainable. A lot of these companies, unfortunately, will go bankrupt.
Yep, they already are.
Yeah.
The 905 license holders at the moment, I suspect that 60% of those will go bankrupt and not be in the industry over the next year to 18 months. And it's happening already. That's
So,
terrifying.
so he's looking at about 500 companies going under.
Well, I mean, if you got to pay $1 million a month to the government, $1 million a month to the government. What?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the tax that most of the companies are behind on is that excise
And because
tax.
they can't keep up, they can't pay it. And so and now the CRA is coming down on CERB people and people that owe money. And like, the CRA is coming down on everybody. So that's why all these bankruptcies are happening. This is so sad, Al. Our poor cannabis industry.
Next story, MJ Biz Daily. Organigram secures United Kingdom cannabis supply deal.
Canadian licensed producer Organigram Holdings has struck a supply agreement with 4C Labs to provide dried cannabis flower for the United Kingdom market. The deal's value was not yet disclosed.
According to a news release, Toronto-based Organigram expects to supply about 600 kilograms of dried flower within the first year of the deal to 4C Labs, a vertically integrated medical cannabis cultivator and digital health care provider based in Britain.
Organigram also is granting 4C Labs strain exclusivity within the United Kingdom and the Channel Islands. The exclusivity clause is active for as long as minimum purchase commitments are satisfied.
The minimum purchase commitments were not detailed in the news release, but Organigram CEO Bina Goldenberg says medical cannabis has been legal in the UK since 2018. However, due to significant energy cost premiums compared to Canada, access to consistent high-quality products in this market is limited, making importing medical cannabis an attractive option for this growing market.
So, in a recent regulatory filing, Organigram said it expects to achieve higher international revenue thanks to a multi-year supply agreement with Canndoc in Israel. Wow. Continued shipments to Medican and Canatrek in Australia, and new international shipments to Germany via a new supply agreement with Sanity Group. They're just global, Al. They're just taking on the world.
And just think, and here we were, few years ago, and it was completely illegal around the world, and here we are. These guys are shipping around the world, these locations. Let's see, through the first 9 months of the fiscal year, Organigram sales from international flour and oil were $18 million, up from $9 million. So they've doubled from the same time last year.
So there's the answer to our last story. If you're not making it in Canada, ship your weed worldwide. You're good. My goodness.
All right. This is our last story of Canadian stories in a row that you may not find on Facebook. And headline here from StratCan says that 2 BC companies in conflict over payment.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, they're at odds over payment for a large quantity of cannabis. And that's according to 2 filings in BC court last week.
Yeah, in a filing from August the 10th, cannabis grower Okana Craft said that Joint Ventures Craft Cannabis, cannabis producer, owes it a payment for 76 kilograms of cannabis based on a purchase price of $3.41 per gram.
Okay. In the statement of defense, JVCC denies the claims. They say that their agreement with Okana Craft was based on consignment, not a set purchase price, and that it had difficulty selling cannabis for Okana due to issues with quality.
Okana Craft is located in Kelowna and has 2 micro cultivation licenses, a micro processing license, and a nursery license. JVCC is located in the Salmon Arm and is a processor that packages and processes cannabis and brings it to the provincial retail markets in Canada on behalf of growers. Kelly, can you just take over there?
Yep.
I gotta let the dog out.
Dog out.
Just like
The
that
notice
song.
of civil claim from Okana Craft alleges that the two companies entered an agreement in 2021 that would allow JVCC to process, package, and market Okana's craft cannabis to the provincial retail markets, at which point Okana would receive payment. Now, Okana further alleges that it had made 13 separate shipments of cannabis to JVCC since August 2021, each sold at different prices for a total of 167,295,000 grams. I said that wrong. The company says JVCC has paid Okana Craft for 775,975 grams and argues JVCC still has just under 65,000 grams. That's what we'll say it, of unsold cannabis in their processing facility in Salmon Arm. So much.
Yeah, I'm not used to, grams. Like by the time you get to 64,000 grams, you've converted it to pounds or tons, right?
Okay. A lot.
Orcana also alleges that JVCC refuses to pay them the agreed upon price of $3.41 per gram. Is charging additional fees for marketing they say was not part of the original agreement and has failed to sell their cannabis in a timely manner.
In their statement of defense, JVCC denies Okana's claims and argues that Okana Craft maintained ownership of all cannabis in its possession through a consignment deal whereby the grower would be paid once cannabis was successfully sold. JVCC denies that it had an agreement to purchase the cannabis outright and maintains that the agreement for payment took into account various deductions for cost and expenses, as well as other factors such as the retail price for the cannabis.
In addition, JVCC alleges that it applied various price deductions for these fees with each batch Okana Craft delivered to be processed, and the cultivar delivered to continue to deliver subsequent batches of new cannabis to be processed.
The statement of defense goes on to argue that JVCC had a written agreement that Okana Craft did not guarantee a specific price and that the price per gram for its cannabis may vary based on demand and that the others to purchase from wholesalers and was exclusive for transportation costs, customs, tariffs and duties, insurance, and any other similar financial contributions or obligations relating to the sale of the cannabis, as well as the costs related to packaging, crafting, and boxing, and that the agreed purchase price would be for saleable product only.
JVCC argues that the cannabis it received from Okana was of poor quality and it possessed a small amount of Okana cannabis that it was unable to sell, which it claims Okana has refused to take back. And just so you know, none of these allegations have been proven in court yet.
It's a big fight. They're getting down there.
Yeah.
BC. Make love, not war, guys.
That's right. That's right. That's what my Facebook wall says. All right. On to the last story before we go to break. And this headline says, middle-aged U.S. adults binge drinking and using marijuana at record levels, new study finds. And this is USA Today.
Wow. Says that binge drinking, vaping, cannabis use, and hallucinogen consumption reached an all-time high among adults in the U.S. last year, reflecting a significant upward trajectory in substance use in recent years.
New research from the University of Michigan's Monitoring of Future panel revealed that middle-aged adults, 35 to 50, are using marijuana and hallucinogens at record levels. Binge drinking has spiked to the highest prevalence ever recorded for this age group, and the panel reported this on Thursday.
For younger adults aged 19 to 30, cannabis use and nicotine vaping saw a sharp increase in the last 5 years, climbing to the highest level ever seen.
Could the increased vape use sort of maybe reflect on reduced in people smoking tobacco?
I don't
I don't
know.
know.
Maybe there's
Yeah,
more stores around.
yeah. Substance use is not limited to teens and young adults, and these data help us understand how people use drugs across their lifespan, according to Dr. Nora Wolko, director of the National Institute of Drug Abuse, in a news release.
The MTF panel study is an annual survey that analyzes substance use behaviors and attitudes in adults ages 19 to 60, funded by the National Institute on Drug Abuse. The survey collects data from a sample of about 28,500 participants nationwide each year.
Yeah, the survey data, which researchers divided into 2 age groups to analyze trends, was collected from April to October of last year. The value of the survey, such as MTV, is to show us how drug use trends evolve over the decades and across development, from adolescence through adulthood. Megan Patrick, research professor and principal investigator of the MTF study, says in a news release, behaviors and public perception of drug use can shift rapidly based on drug availability and other factors.
Now, regarding cannabis and hallucinogens use, binge drinking and vaping, the study also found about 44% of young adults reported using cannabis in the past year, an increase of 28% from about a decade ago. Daily cannabis use reached its highest level in the age group, nearly doubling from 10 years ago, with more than 1 in 10 using cannabis almost every day.
For adults 35 to 50, cannabis use more than doubled compared with 10 years ago, with 28% reporting having used cannabis.
I wonder if that has also something to do with the reporting. Like back then, they wouldn't have admitted it as
And
readily as they
admitted,
would admit it
yeah.
now,
And
right?
yeah, now
So,
look at, people are more apt, I would think,
yeah,
to admit to it
they're
now.
because there's stores around, and it's a conversation. It's not as stigmatized as it was 10 and 20 years ago. So they wouldn't
Correct.
admit it, of course. Now they're like, yeah, I smoke weed. It's okay.
Yeah.
Young and middle-aged adult groups use hallucinogens such as LSD, MDMA, mescaline, peyote, mushrooms, or psilocybin, and PCP, wow, at a significantly higher rate compared with 10 years ago. Among adults ages 19 to 38% reported use of hallucinogens in the past year, and 4% of adults 35 to 50 years old reported use.
Nicotine vaping among adults nearly doubled over the past 5 years, from 14% to 24%, and binge drinking for the middle age group had reached its highest levels in 2022 at 29%, compared to 25% in 2017 and 23% in 2012. Almost 30% of middle-aged adults reported having 5 or more consecutive drinks in the past 2 weeks.
Wow. It's quite a long article. Do you want me to
Yeah,
keep
it
going with
is.
it?
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
goes
it
on
goes. Oh,
about,
well,
more
actually, we're in the last
stat.
section. I see
Yeah?
we are in the last section. It just
Oh,
says
okay.
substance use in the U.S. It says that the most common illicit use was cannabis, which 52.5 million people used in 2021.
Wow. That's a
Yeah,
lot more than I was
yeah.
expecting to
It's,
hear.
yeah, as of 2021, nearly 2 in 5 young adults 18 to 25 had used illicit drugs. 1 in 3 young adults 18 to 25 used cannabis.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, sounds good to me. They're healthier teens then, aren't they? Good to
Well,
hear.
I gotta agree with you that there's probably that big factor there of people or saying it freely, or admitting to
Yeah.
things
No,
now
they
than
weren't. They
what they
weren't.
did in the
Especially
past, right?
kids. I mean,
Yeah.
I would never have said that as a teenager back, like, when I was a teenager, I would never
No,
have said
yeah,
I smoked cannabis, but I know kids right now will say that they use cannabis for wellness, for medicine, for health,
yeah,
for anxiety. I have conversations with them. So I think they're a little bit more open with that conversation and
yeah.
that
I
language,
agree.
which
I
is
agree.
nice.
All right, time to hear from our sponsors. For us to take a break, you're watching Psychedelics and Cannabis Education and News here at paceradio.net and cbgtv.com. You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
When you think of the number of unique products developed in the fields, kitchens, and labs at Legacy 420, it's hard to think that one stands out above the rest. But tell that to the thousands of people who have tried this amazing breakthrough product.
This is our Sacred Salve. This is actually our extra strength. It comes in 5 different strengths. It's all natural, all organic. It typically works within 10 to 15 minutes of putting it on. It's good for arthritis, it's good for inflammation, any kind of pain. We're very proud of it.
Sacred Salve, so easy to apply, along with soothing relief. To select a strength that's right for you, come in and talk to your trusted partner. Legacy 420 out on your road.
Pace Radio Network, by patients, for patients, and for those who want to know.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Are you a cannabis content creator? Are you looking for a place to have your content seen? If you answer yes to both questions, then you need to check out cbgtv.com.
Let's share Pace everywhere. That way it can help create peace. People everywhere advocating cannabis education. Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420. You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net. Hey, we're back. I'm paying attention. Almost got caught sleeping on that one. Yes, we are live. All right, Rev Kelly, before the break, we had a story about the use of drugs is increasing in places, and you were talking about the use and using because it improves, they're improving their quality of health because they're dealing with health issues, right?
Right.
Which leads us to our next story here. And the headline there in the Marijuana Moment says medical cannabis use linked to improved quality of life and better job performance for people with neurological disorders.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And
Medical cannabis use is associated with improved quality of life, including better job performance, sleep, appetite, and energy. And this comes to us from a new study.
Yeah, and on Thursday, Glenn and I had an article, had all kinds of different things that people have found, listed out all the benefits. It was really good, and this just adds to it. So,
yeah.
Researchers at the University of West Attica in Greece published the story in the journal Genius Dis Neuroscientific Advances on Wednesday, following an analysis of survey data from medical cannabis patients with neurological disorders.
Medical cannabis has been used to relieve the symptoms of people with various chronic diseases, the author said. Despite this, it has been stigmatized.
The study showed that a majority, 58% of the respondents, said medical cannabis is an effective treatment for their condition. Among the group, 96% said the cannabis decreased their symptoms. 88% said it improved their ability to perform their professional duties. 79% said it enhanced their sleep. 71% said it improved their appetite, and 68% increased their energy and vitality.
Wow.
Wow, exactly.
Huge percentages there. Our participants exhibited very few restrictions in activities due to emotional difficulties, a moderate general health status, as well as moderate vitality and energy, the study author said. The participants who reported a longer period of receiving medical cannabis reported statistically significant more energy and vitality, but also better mental and general health status.
A clinical questionnaire and SF dash 36 health survey scale that respondents completed also asked about their openness about using cannabis for therapeutic purposes. A strong majority, 85% of medical cannabis patients said that they've disclosed their use to family. 93% said that they enjoyed their support. However, 81% said that they haven't been open about their cannabis use in their social environment, such as their workplace. I like to see that number get down.
Yes.
That last one.
Yes. Appropriate knowledge could significantly help health
Mhm.
professionals in the field of planning and implementation of personalized nursing care in order to achieve optimal therapeutic outcomes, the study concludes.
These findings are consistent with other recent research indicating that cannabis can play a role for improving general well-being. For example, a study published by the American Medical Association in May found that the use of medical cannabis is associated with significant improvements in quality of life for people with conditions like chronic pain and insomnia, and those effects are largely sustained over time.
Another recent study from the University of Colorado found that consistent cannabis use is associated with improved cognition and reduced pain among cancer patients and people receiving chemotherapy. Wow.
Yeah, also a study published in the International Journal of Drug Policy this month found that the states that have legalized medical cannabis have seen significant reductions in health insurance premiums compared to states where cannabis remained completely illegal.
Wow.
Yeah, those health reductions, it was
Mhm.
approximately $1,600 a year that people were
That's
saving.
big. That's a
It
lot.
is, I know. There you go. That's the end of the story. But yeah, that is some of that stuff that was highlighted there in the end was similar to the other story that had some past studies to show where it's improved the
Mhm.
quality of health or for people. So
Mhm. Wow. Wow.
yeah, it's good.
Wow, wow, wow.
All right, on to our next story. Hit the buttons here. How consciousness may rely on brain cells acting collectively, new psychedelic research on rats. And this comes to us from the medical press.
Getting rats high.
Yep.
Psychedelics are known for inducing altered state of consciousness in humans by fundamentally changing our normal pattern of sensory perception, thought, and emotion. Research into the therapeutic potential of psychedelics has increased significantly in the last decade.
While this research is important, I have always been more intrigued by the idea that psychedelics can be used as a tool to study the neural basis of human consciousness. In laboratory animals, we ultimately share the same basic neural hardware with other mammals and possibly some basic aspects of consciousness too.
So, by examining what happens in the brain when there's psychedelically induced change in conscious experience, we can perhaps glean insights into what consciousness is in the first place.
We still don't know a lot about how the networks of cells in the brain enable consciousness experience. The dominating view is that consciousness somehow emerges as a collective phenomenon when the dispersed information processing of individual neurons is integrated as cells interact.
But the mechanism by which this is supported to happen remains unclear. Now, by our study on rats published in Communications Biology, suggests that psychedelics radically change the way that neurons interact and behave collectively.
The study compared two different classes of psychedelics in rats, the classic LSD type and the less typical ketamine type. Both classes are known to induce psychedelic experiences in humans despite acting on different receptors in the brain.
We use electrodes to simultaneously measure electrical activity from 128 separate areas of the brain of 9 awake rats while they were given psychedelics. The electrodes could pick up two kinds of signals: electrical brainwaves caused by the cumulative activities in thousands of neurons, and smaller transient electrical pulses called action potentials from individual neurons. This is amazing study. It's very,
All
very
right.
scientific.
It is, I know.
Wow. Okay.
Like this is all future, how this is all going to work out in the future,
That's just
down the
it.
road and all that,
Yeah.
and this is the future. And in two stories, we got something that takes us way back in the past. So it's going to be interesting how all this goes together. They say the classic psychedelics such as LSD and psilocybin activates a receptor in the brain, which neurally binds to serotonin, a neurotransmitter that regulates mood and many other things. Ketamine, on the other hand, works by inhibiting another receptor, which normally is activated by glutamate, the primary neurotransmitter in the brain for making neurons fire.
Wow. Okay, so they speculated that despite the differences, the two classes of psychedelics might have similar effects on the activity of the brain. And then it turned out that both drug classes induced a very similar and distinctive pattern of brain waves in the multiple brain regions. So they were just firing off, Al. Firing off there.
Yeah. They say here the brain waves were unusually fast, oscillating about 150 times per second. They were also surprisingly synchronized between two different regions. Short bursts of oscillations at a similar frequency are known to occur occasionally under normal conditions in some brain regions, but in this case, it occurred for their prolonged durations.
Wow.
It was really firing up, I'll tell you.
They were filing up. They go on to talk about the LSD, the potential activity caused by LSD and ketamine differed significantly. So they were showing differences there. They would not directly link to the general psychedelic state for LSD. The neurons were inhibited, meaning they were fired fewer action potentials. And then for ketamine, the effect depended on the cell type. So they're really digging deep into what it's the way that the brain is altered by these different psychedelics. Wow.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
And how it will help, what benefits it will have on us in the future.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Big time.
Those rats are having a good time, Al.
Oh, all right. Let's head off to Germany. Because you know what they're doing over in Germany? Something that more countries should be doing.
Yeah.
And that is Germany approves landmark bill to liberalize cannabis use and sale.
So exciting.
Another one.
Being in possession of just small amounts of cannabis, it's on its way to becoming legal in Germany after the country's cabinet approved a plan to begin decriminalizing cannabis.
A bill that lets people have 25 grams of cannabis for recreational purposes, grow up to 3 plants, or acquire cannabis at cannabis clubs is set to become law.
I do like those cannabis clubs. They had them in Uruguay. I wish they had them
like
here,
the
but
idea of
I'm
the
not.
cannabis clubs too.
Yeah, I like that, but I'm not too happy with the 25 grams or the 3 plants. So they've got a little less. They're doing less than we have here. Now to give Germany some of the most liberal cannabis laws in Europe, so it's better than the other places, and fulfills the plans of the Chancellor Olaf Scholz.
Those taking part will have to be members of cannabis clubs where the medicine will be grown, and the new rules will still need to be endorsed the Bundestag, Germany's parliament, and introduced by its regional governments.
Clubs of up to 500 associates maximum must have burglar-proof doors and windows with greenhouses fenced off. Oh, that sounds nice, though.
Yeah, 500 members. I think associates would be members. Members
Yeah.
must be German residents who are 18 and older, can only join one club, and consumption will not be allowed at the clubs or near schools, nurseries,
Oh.
playgrounds, or sports grounds.
What do they do there? They just go and talk about the cannabis and grow it, maybe, but they
They
can't
grow.
consume it. Aw.
Yeah, well, who knows? Maybe they live in places like here in Ontario where you
Right.
own $1 million condo, but you're not allowed to smoke cannabis in it because the
So
condo doesn't allow it.
So sad. It happens
Yeah,
all
I
over the
know.
place. Individuals would be allowed to buy up to 25 grams per day or up to 50 grams per month, a figure limited to 30 grams for under 21s.
So you're not even allowed two ounces a month.
No.
Ooh. Health Minister, yeah, Health Minister Karl Lauterbach called the draft law a turning point in Germany's attitude towards cannabis. Mr. Schultz's socially liberal coalition hopes the plan will limit black market sales product consumers against contaminated products and reduce drug-related crime. Well, you shouldn't be limited to 50 grams a month if you want to attempt to even try to do that.
Yep, that's not enough for sure. So earlier this year, Mr. Lautenbach insisted ministers are not creating a problem, but rather trying to solve a problem. Their center-right opponents disagree, accusing the government of legalizing a risky drug in the face of European legal obstacles and the doubts of experts.
The move could backfire by putting more rather than less pressure on the country's legal system, according to the body representing German judges, which says it could even increase demand for black market cannabis.
Even some advocates of legislation are not happy either. Oliver Wack-Jurgensen, who heads the Berlin-based High Ground Cannabis Social Club, founded last year, accused ministers of over-regulation, continuing to stigmatize cannabis users and making it impossible for many, many cannabis clubs to work.
Oh, well, we like the idea of the clubs. Obviously, the guy's upset about a bit of the things, but I can see where he's talking about the overregulation and continuing stigmatization. The government also said it hopes to bring in 5-year tests of regulated commercial supply chains in select regions, which would then not scientifically be evaluated. But it's all far short of its original plan last year, which oversaw allowing the sale of cannabis to adults at the country, across the country at licensed outlets. Yeah.
Wow.
All right.
Interesting.
So at least they've got to start, and they say the foot's in the door. Now you got to work on those improvements, right?
We'll take it. We'll take the start. We took our start here, and there's a lot of improvements that need here. So we'll take what we can get.
Yeah. All right. Now we're going to take that little journey back in time because scientists discovered that Neanderthals were getting high on psychedelics millions of years ago. Like, you can't go back any further than that, can you?
No, we know this
Well, I guess you can, but
yes. Neanderthals like to unwind after a hard day's work hunting and gathering by consuming psychoactive drugs. A new study has found.
A discovery of human hair strands at a burial site in Menorca, Spain, has given us evidence of drug use in prehistoric times. Research was put forward in a new study published in the journal Scientific Reports, and they shine new light on drug use throughout history.
Bravo. They contain scopolamine and atropine, which can cause hallucinations and out-of-body experiences when epinephrine is a stimulant.
Yeah.
Ephedrine is a stimulant. There we go.
Yeah, the findings were uncovered in a number of different alkaloid substances which came with nightshade plants. The cave also contained boxes patterned with psychedelic decorations, which could well have been decorated while neanderthals were under the influence.
That's amazing. Eliza Garados is an associate professor of prehistory at the University of Valladolid and lead author of this study. She says that these findings are so singular.
That sometimes when people think about drugs, they think it's a modern practice. These results tell a different story, she says.
Ethnobotanist Giorgio Simonori, who wasn't involved in the study, also told the publication this was not a profane purpose of searching for a high, but more generally the search for existential meaning that has been largely lost on time.
There you go. So, yeah. Who
That's
knew?
good.
Yeah, like we never, when do you ever talk about, think about that? A lot of people probably just think about psychedelics sort of like they think about cannabis. It didn't come around to the 1960s.
Yeah. Nope. Long time ago. Thousands of years.
Exactly. All right, last story of the day. There we go. This one comes to us from MJ Biz Daily. Freezing freshly harvested cannabis retains moisture and terpenes.
As cannabis consumers develop a better understanding and appreciation for terpenes, flavonoids, and other chemical compounds found in cannabis flower, live resin products are becoming increasingly popular.
Live resin can be used in different products, but it mostly appears in vape cartridges, dabbable concentrates, and edibles. The best way to create a live rosin is from freshly harvested material that still contains moisture, according to Nick Robertson, Vice President of Operations at Massachusetts Phoenix-based multi-state operator Forefront Ventures.
Moisture is critical to live resin because it helps preserve terpenes, which are incredibly volatile, Robertson said. Even in the most optimal drying environments, a significant amount of terpenes will be lost.
But if plant material is frozen right after or soon after it's harvested, its moisture will be preserved, therefore helping retain terpenes and other desirable chemical compounds.
Robertson says, no matter what, we are going to lose some terpenes, even under the most perfect drying conditions. He says there's never a higher concentration of terpenes in plant material than that day that you cut it down. If you could do anything to preserve that plant material as long as you can and to be able to put it into something else, that's obviously optimal.
Freezing plant material within minutes after harvest can preserve terpenes and other compounds, resulting in highly flavorful vape cartridges and concentrates. There are two ways to freeze cannabis.
One is the so-called flash freezing, which is typically used by outdoor growers who must transport their products to processing facilities that are a couple of hours away or more.
Yeah, in flash freezing scenario, plants are harvested and then put into a conveyor belt that takes them through a flash freezing machine. They are immediately bagged and put into insulated freezer containers, and driven to their destination.
This method also is used for frozen vegetables and frozen pizza. More typical among indoor grow facilities is also the so-called fresh freezing. In those cases, plant material is harvested, trimmed, and broken down, bagged, and then put into a freezer inside the facility, usually within 30 minutes of harvesting.
The harvesting process for fresh frozen flower is similar to that for cured flower. Plants are cut and fan leaves are trimmed while sugar leaves are retained. Then the flower is placed into the freezer bags and carted to freezers within the facility.
Now, once the plant is cut down and everything is about stabilization, you're trying to get that stuff frozen and live because that's when you're preserving all those monoterpenes, said Marco Malasteri, head cultivator at Fluent Cannabis in Florida.
Live is a term the industry has adopted for products made from fresh frozen cannabis, such as live resin, cartridge oils, concentrates, and edibles infused as live resin oils.
And the word live might make it seem as if the cannabis has living organisms as yogurt does, but it really means the flower has been harvested and frozen at peak terpene and resin levels.
In fact, everything else being equal, terpene and resin levels degrade as they go through the drying and curing process. If growers can capture peak terpene and resin levels, by freezing flower and then extracting it later, they can get an arguably superior product.
Especially important is keeping dwell time, the period a plant spends between being cut and being frozen, to a minimum. Reducing dwell time requires a strict process and harvesters with trimming expertise. There's some processing involved. You don't just throw a whole plant in the freezer. You're getting these quarter golf ball sized nuggets, Melisteri says. Yeah.
Hey, just throw it all in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. For flash freezings, growers need a freezer environment and a process to feed the product into the room. Time is the enemy when it comes to flash frozen. Cultivators advise staff not to overstuff the freezer bags because doing so can result in trichome loss.
Depending on the size of the cultivation facility, some growers will have chest freezers while others will have walk-in freezers.
Whatever the size, a home or restaurant freezer will likely not be cold enough. Instead, growers should invest in pharmaceutical grade freezers or rig their own freezers to reach 40 to 70 degrees below Fahrenheit. Oh.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
They just
That's
need those
cold.
good freezers. That's really cold. But I've seen this process before.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you have too, the live
Yeah.
resin process. It's a good one.
Yeah. And I think it's good to get to, remind people going into the harvest season, as we talked about before the show, the plants are going into bloom. So it's time, it's good
time to be aware of these things, the different methods of extractions, the different methods of harvesting. And if you know Mr. Squishy, he likes those moist nugs. And
That's
so
right. He sure does.
If you're making the rosin, right? If you're pressing, then you want the moisture in there. So it's an excellent reminder for anybody that is heading to harvest to look into it a little bit more right now, if that's what you want to do. Yeah.
Big time. All right. That's it from the Legacy 420. You got anything you want to say before we go?
But just that we're going to find Mr. Squishy again soon. Look for another event coming this fall, and you and I will figure that out real soon.
All right. Good. We're talking to you about that. From the Legacy420.com news desk, that's the news for today. We hope you find it educational and informative. Thanks to Legacy420.com, the Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, and LimestoneCityHydroponics.ca. And to our viewers, catch our next report Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern. Bye.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
When you have a pain that's reached its peak, Legacy for 20, it's so unique. If organic cannabis is what you seek, here's your trusted partners 7 days a week. Suppository salves, vapes and drops, topicals, edibles, infused pop. Just when life seems like it ain't easy, at Legacy 420, enjoy a pop freezy. Lab tested products, make them the GOAT. Legacy 420 out on your road. Legacy 420 in Tyndonega Mohawk territory. Indigenous organic cannabis at its finest.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.